Man, I freaking love Joe Douglas. Joe Douglas, I just want to kiss that beautiful bald head of yours. Hello, Jets fans. Can can we just describe the Jets fandom as a freaking roller coaster basically the last 24 hours? I mean, from the gut punches to the win, like this was arguably one of the most miserable victory Mondays you could possibly have in the entire National Football League. It started off with the kick in the nads that we found out Brees Hall was out for the season, although Jets fans could somewhat stomach that because it was kind of expected. We pretty much feared that this was going to be an ACL injury. But then to knock it all off, I didn't come back on the air for this. We did a live stream about Brees Hall. It was Elijah Vera Tucker out for the entire freaking season now with a triceps injury. He was out for the year. And look, as a Jet fan, it was miserable this afternoon. But it was funny because earlier today, I was really hyping up two potential players. One was Kareem Hunt, but the other one was James Robinson. Danger, danger, James Robinson. And Joe Douglas has brought him to New York. The Jets trading a 6th-round draft pick, which is a conditional 5th-round pick for the young running back. There is a lot to get into on this. And James Robinson, of course, will be in the 1-2 punch with Michael Carter, a restricted free agent at the end of the season, so the Jets can bring him back on a good deal. A huge addition, considering only going to cost the Jets $546,000. So not only bargain basement shopping, but getting a great deal. There is so much to get into this. I really like Robinson. And for me, I was saying this earlier where Hunt to me was the biggest home run hitter on the market, but James Robinson to me is the most underappreciated running back in the National Football League. And he's got an intriguing build. He's 5'9", but 220 pounds. And for his career, this is someone that's had a really odd odyssey in the NFL. In his rookie year, behind a woeful offensive line, despite having a 1-15 team in front of him, ran for over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns with 4.5 yards a carry. Last year, considering for some reason their head coach, who loved going to getting lap dances but didn't love winning football games, didn't want to play. And despite only touching the rock 164 times, managed 767 yards and 8 touchdowns and nearly averaged 5 yards carry. This year, a little bit less, but still over 4 yards a carry this season, 3 touchdowns on 81 rushing attempts for 340 yards. James Robinson, obviously, it's going to be hard to replace the production of Brees Hall. Obviously, Brees Hall looked like he could be one of the best running backs in the entire National Football League. He looked like he was going to be the runaway favorite. And yet, the Jets get a 24-year-old for less than $600,000. A restricted free agent that they could bring back and probably at a good price next year. A great compliment to Michael Carter and also help this team's rushing attack, and has proven he can do it with a bad offensive line. Look, the Jaguars spent a ton of resources on their offensive line, but I would still argue, even now, after losing Elijah Vera Tucker, the Jets have a better offensive line than the Jacksonville Jaguars. I am freaking pumped for this move. Jets barely giving up any valuable picks. They get a good young player, and this is a player that this might not just be a rental. Kareem Hunt was a complete rental. You knew he was not going to be coming back and would want to get every penny on the market. But this is a player that all of a sudden, if he has a really good year, maybe the Jets bring him back again. A restricted free agent, maybe this could be another back that they could have in a stable of backfields, especially for a team that wants to run the ball. And look, KD, I got to give you the credit, my man. You called it last night. Me and you were both sharing a brain. And look, I'll admit, I was leaning more toward Hunt, but the only reason I put Hunt ahead of Robinson was I thought Hunt was slightly more explosive, but I also felt that Cleveland's selling. Cleveland's also made it clear that they are going to trade Kareem Hunt. I wasn't fully sold on Robinson because despite being 2-5, the Jaguars are in a bad division. And more importantly, they have a second-year quarterback that they're trying to make work in Trevor Lawrence. You would think that they'd want to give him as much help as he possibly can. And look, you have to say this about the New York Jets. Zach Wilson is going to succeed or fail on his own because the Jets are going above and beyond to make sure that he can survive. How do you feel if you're Trevor Lawrence today on a 2-5 football team? And yes, I understand Travis Etienne is their future at running back. I understand he is a good friend of Mr. Trevor Lawrence. But do you don't think Trevor Lawrence might be a little bit miffed that this team is already punting on the season, even at 2-5, and is more concerned about getting a, at best, 5th-round draft pick to help his team, to help him grow as a quarterback? Look, say what you want about the Jets. They did what a good team is supposed to do. They adjusted, they pivoted, and you cannot say that Joe Douglas isn't aggressive at the trade deadline. Every year at the trade deadline, he has made a move for the New York Jets. Last year was a bit of a buyer, surprisingly, to shore up the offensive line, and it helped them in the second half. And look, I don't think the Jets are done at the trade deadline. I really believe that the Jets are not done. Now, they can go a couple different ways. I could see them maybe trying to add even another running back. Offensive line now, we were talking earlier, the last video might be a little out of date because AVT at the time wasn't out for the season. But now maybe the Jets look on the market for an offensive lineman potentially and look to add him to this team. So do you see him as a 1B until he's accustomed to the offense? Eventually, this is the other great thing about this trade, KD. The timing of this trade. It's on Monday. Usually teams don't have to worry about even McCaffrey. McCaffrey was made later in the week. I still think this weekend Michael Carter will be the lead back, but James Robinson's going to get his touches. He is going to get touches this weekend. They did it early in the weekend. That's another stroke of genius with this trade. When did they do it? Monday night. Will they fly Robinson out tonight? Maybe, but at the very least, he'll be out early tomorrow. I expect him in Florham Park tomorrow, instilled in the game plan. And this is someone, too, like, we have to remember, Saleh has Jacksonville ties. This maybe helped make this trade possible with his history with that organization. But this is a runner that fits what the Jets want to do, a one-cut, slashing style of runner that's aggressive and can get downhill. And Robinson is a playmaker. He's someone that is dangerous in the open field. And look, he is not going to replace Breece Hall's production. No one could. But this is a player that is an explosive back. And a lot of the guys I was mentioning on the list earlier today, Dearness Johnson, that was another player I really liked. I felt like they had a ceiling. James Robinson, of all these players, might have the highest ceiling of anyone because we don't know how good he could be. He was great with Gardner Minshew struggling as a quarterback. He was great last year in spite of Trevor Lawrence's struggles. And even this year, he was really good. And it just feels like the Jaguars are just trying to make their investment for Travis Etienne, who already has missed a year, worth value. And it seems like that organization is more focused on trying to make Etienne work than getting a good player. Now, is it a little bit concerning that they're moving off James Robinson this early? Yes, but from what you've heard, great kid, passionate kid, and he just comes to freaking work. And let's not forget, the Jaguars also happened to cast off another Jet on this roster, Quincy Williams. Didn't think he fit their scheme. Didn't think that it would work out there, but apparently Saleh, I don't know what he's got down there. Maybe he's got some close connections in Jacksonville, but Jets picked him up. And Williams has been a freaking steal. And look, let's be honest, Jaguars a clown for this. Jags aren't happy, but they weren't going to sign him, and he's out after, so they scraped some value instead of just walking. I kind of get it, but I also am curious as a restricted free agent because that's technically you can put a tender on him and get a draft pick back, usually if someone signs him. So the Jets could probably get him back on a cheap deal. And if he balls out and really is a great player, You have Breece Hall coming back. Could Michael Carter eventually maybe even be a trade piece for the Jets? Could Robinson maybe be a future trade piece? Like, this is a great move, and they're giving up a 6th-round pick, which becomes a conditional fifth. Let me ask you, are you regretting that 5th-round pick the Jets traded to kick into Breece Hall? No. If James Robinson helps this team makes the postseason this year, are you going to give a damn about that 5th-round pick that the Jets gave up? Absolutely not. I love it a lot. And look, today, if I could just describe this day, it has been a crap Sunday. It's been a crap Sunday, which just more crap thrown on it with the AVT announcement. But Joe Douglas managed to put a whipped cream and cherry top on for Jet fans. Look, it's not going to fully make up for losing both of the arguably the offense's 2 most important pieces. But I will also say this. The Jets did not give up much here. And I'm wondering if Joe Douglas is looking on this market right now and trying to find maybe a good guard or swing guard. Because remember, when they made the move last year to bring in the good old doctor, we were like, he hasn't really played a lot, but he was a great find and solidify this offensive line. I don't think the Jets are done. I was banging on the table this morning. I was banging on the table last night. The Jets need to be aggressive. And this shows you that times have changed in Florham Park because, yes, do the injuries feel like the same old Jets? Does it feel like that old gut punch? Absolutely. But you know what? This organization is doing everything they freaking can because they are not sitting on their hands here. They are not waiting. And I kept saying this when people were like, well, just play out the committee. Let the committee of running backs figure it out. You don't have time to wait. The trade deadline is November 1st in exactly 1 week. So the best you were going to do is basically see what this group did. And let's also be honest, I like Michael Carter a lot. But I think the Jets know and are telling you what they think of Michael Carter. A really valuable running back and a really good pass catcher, and they like him for about 15 touches a game. But they don't see him as the bell cow for the rest of the season. James Robinson has proven in his career that he can be a bell cow. And I don't think the Jets are going to ask him to be a bell cow, but he has proven that he can be a feature back. Michael Carter last year had the injury issues, missed a couple games, got nicked up a couple times. And right now, I think this is what is ideal for him. Limit his touches, but because he's limited his touches, he can be more explosive within those touches. I think that this is a great move. And let's also be honest, too, because I got a lot of this from earlier. Zach has to absolutely play better. But Zach, we're going to have a decision on Zach by the end of the season, whether he's the guy or not. Because the Jets have done more than any other organization with their second-year quarterback. They are aggressive. They address this issue. They're going to have a good running game. It might not be the best, but it will be good enough to win with this great defense. And if Zach cannot win with this, that's going to be a big issue. But you will have clarity either way. Yeah, I don't get what they're doing. So I hope Mac does okay so we don't have to play Zappy. Look, I think that it's going to be an ugly game next weekend, but I think the Jets are going to win. My respect for JD has been trying to fix this team acquisition after acquisition. The injuries have been tough on this team. And look, I have to give Joe Douglas a lot of credit. He didn't sit on his hands. He didn't wait for to see what was going to happen. He didn't go bargain bin shopping on the free agent market. He went out and got a legitimate running back. He went out there and got a running back who is dirt cheap right now, and a running back that, let me remind you, has had 89 career catches for over 600 yards and 4 receiving touchdowns. He can catch out of the backfield. He is a power back, and really he fits what the Jets need because Michael Carter is a shifty back. Ty Johnson's a fast back, but they don't have someone that in short yard situation, you saw it a couple times yesterday, they don't have that guy that can pound it in for short yards. Robinson, despite being 5'9", is 220 pounds. He doesn't mind sticking his nose in there and getting those hard yards. And look, so far this year, I think Jacksonville just hasn't really figured out how to really use him. But best game came in week 3. in their biggest win of the year in against the Chargers, 17 rushing yards, 17 carries for 100 yards and a touchdown. 60 yards, 60 yards. The last couple of weeks hasn't got as much carries, but a lot of it too is it just feels like that they're trying to make their investment make sense with Etienne. Because again, they drafted him in the first round. They're paying him all this money. He was coming back from the injury. And Robinson, look, for whatever reason, he was not falling in love with this coaching staff. Don't forget, he was brought in not just a previous coaching staff 2 staffs ago. He was brought in with the last coaching staff. They get fired. Then they make the move to the disaster of last year. Then they move to Doug Peterson. So it seems like this coaching staff just doesn't have a lot investment in it. And I'm excited to see what Robinson can do because I can guarantee you he is probably pissed off and wants to prove Jacksonville wrong. And I also wonder, could the Jets have had an inside source on this? Like, do you think Robert and Joe called a certain linebacker, Quincy, up to the office and said, hey, Quincy, is this guy a dog? Is this guy going to help us? And I guarantee you Quincy said, yeah, Jacksonville doesn't know how to look at talent. Jacksonville doesn't know how to use their players. And Quincy's a great example of that. So I give this trade a great job. And look, it to me is more than just a trade. It's more than just getting a good piece. It's more than just fixing a hole. It's a sign to this fan base that this organization is done playing for next year. They are done kicking the can down the proverbial road. They are done saying, oh, we got to hold these picks. Look, the Jets have a lot of draft picks. I don't know if you know this, but the Jets, they're not hurting for draft picks next year. Yeah, they don't have 2 1s, but they still have some picks. So their future picks, I think are in good hands. I think they have multiple 6. I have to check. I'm going to check really quick right now. So the Jets right now have a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and they had a couple 6s. So really, the worst thing they're going to give up is a 5th round pick here. Not just a good personnel decision. Joe knew you need a move to keep team confident after 2 key losses. Then look, William, that goes to my point too. He's sending a message to the guys in this locker room. Look, we are not the same old freaking Jets. We are not the same old Jets that are just going to, when the times get tough, we're just going to throw in the towel. So many and they're not going to use injuries as an excuse. They are going for it. And look, I understand these next 3 games to me are going to be the toughest. The back half of the schedule is a lot easier, and I just feel like the Jets just need to win 1 of the next 3. And I keep telling people the Jets don't have to be great to make the postseason. They're 5-2. They can legitimately go 500 the rest of the way, lose to the Bills, not even do well in this division. They go 5-5, and they will finish as a 10-win ball club. And look at the 3 games they get at home. They get the Bears, who are falling apart home. They get the Jaguars, who are already giving up on the season at home. They get the Lions, who are giving up. The Jets have gimmies on their schedule, and the Jets have winnable games. So, look, DeMar, I don't think that's out of the question. In the press conference today, he did say Bam's going to get an opportunity. Now, I am curious to see what the Jets do for the running backs. Will they carry 4 in a game? They've been carrying 3, but could they carry 4? They've also been carrying a ton of defensive linemen. Could they maybe make one of them inactive? It will also be a question about the receiver. So, for example, if Corey Davis, who's day-to-day, misses a game this weekend, could Bam be in a 4-man rotation? Just because, and it's still a long season. There could be a game where Michael Carter has to miss a game. There might be a game where Ty Johnson isn't 100%. So Bam, I think, is going to get an opportunity. So I think it was a good move. I think he's playing Sunday. I really do. The timing of this move tells me that the Jets wanted to play Sunday because they didn't wait. They did this on Monday. Monday is the off day. Tuesday is when a lot of teams start to get back in the facility, and Thursday the day is they install the game plan. So if he's not on a flight already from Jacksonville, he'll be on one this tomorrow morning. He'll be in the facility. He'll have a day of practice. The Jets are not going to give him probably 20 carries. but I guarantee you he's probably going to get 12 to 14 carries in that game because they don't want Michael Carter toweling the rock for 20 to 35 times a game. I think he will be in. It's the timing. The timing tells me that Robinson's going to play this weekend. Even McCaffrey, they did after they installed the freaking game plan and they were trying to get him to figure out the game plan within 36 hours. This move in the timing gives the Jets time. It gives them a chance to ease him in. And the biggest thing about this football season is the following. The football season, it is a marathon with a lot of sprints. Every week is a sprint, and you want to win every week, and I get it. But this is also a move that's a bigger impact down the stretch. It's a long-term move. And while it might not be a big impact against the Patriots this week, long-term for the remainder of the season, this is a really big move. Carter, I don't think can be the main guy. He's a great Robin. He is a really good number 2. He is what you want to see as a number 2 running back and a change of pace back. He fits perfectly. But the Jets, and this is another reason why I really am starting to love this coaching staff, they are understanding the limitations and what their players can do best. They know that the best version of Michael Carter is what he is right now, a high-end second back. He cannot be the lead back. And that tells me that the Jets not only have had a good eye for acquiring talent, but understanding the limitations of this roster. Because if they had not done a move by the deadline and Michael Carter got nicked up down the stretch, and we were talking about Bam and we were talking about Ty Johnson as potential starters down the stretch, that would be a disaster. And it also would be hard to judge Zach Wilson because if the running backs were terrible, it could be like, well, is Zach really this bad or is it because they don't have running backs? You eliminated a key variable. This season is about winning now, but it's all the biggest question will be about Zach. And the biggest thing the Jets have done is eliminate a variable. I think they're still going to address the offensive line, but the biggest thing with the offensive line we have to remember too is Fant hopefully comes off in another week. And they also will get Max Mitchell back. Those will be huge. Max Mitchell's proven he can be a quality starting right tackle. I thought Cedric did a nice job stepping in the Broncos game, and he will start this week. And I think he can at least plug the hole. And it's someone that's had over 900 snaps at both the left and the right tackle position. So it's not a complete novice playing the position. And look, Nate Herbig, the AVT is a devastating injury because you lose an all-pro tackle. The Jets don't have a great offensive line, but they're at least at the middle of the league. You know what Connor McGovern is. He's serviceable. Like, personally, I want to see Laken Thompson freaking step it up and look like a Pro Bowler. Like, he's played better, but he needs to really step it up. Great move. Keep them all fresh, but Zach needs to be more accurate. Yep, completely agree. Carter needs to be in the third downs for sure. Huggies are off for Zach. He needs to do a good job. Yep. So, again, a lot of people really loving this move on Twitter, really loving social media. And guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like, so you don't miss any of our great content. If you're a Jets fan, you know people that want to join the Jet community, let them know. We want them to come out. So again, just looking at a lot of the response on Twitter. So for people that said Joe Douglas isn't active, 17 player trades since he was hired in June 2019. I also saw a report from Schefter that targets for the Packers are Elijah Moore and Denzel Mims. They're not trading Elijah, but if the right price, maybe Denzel. And look, the other thing too, which sucks, and I'm trying to put a positive spin on this for the Jets. And this is my final thoughts on the AVT injury and the Breece Hall injury. In the absolute short term and the impact of the season, it sucks. But here's the silver lining to all of that. You still have 2 guys that are under the age of 25 that are going to be bedrocks of this organization for the next few years and have proven themselves to be potential all-pro talents and that they have hit home runs on those draft picks. It sucks in the short term, but I still will also contend that it's going to just keep getting better for the Jets because they have a lot of young players that are still scarily enough figuring it out. I think next year is the explosion year for this team, where this rookie class is a full year under their belt. The last year's class is another year in the belt, and they have another draft to fix the last remaining holes on this team. I think that for the long term, Brees Hall, at least the timing too, I also said was great. If you're going to have an ACL injury in the NFL, this is probably the last week you want to have it, because he has a timetable to be back for opening day next year. Any later in the season, it spills over into next year. So I know that is looking at the whole picture. And look, in the micro picture, I get it. We want to end this playoff drought. We want the Jets to be good this year. I get it. But this was also, the Jets are vastly overexceeding expectations, which is fantastic. People have to remember that this team next year, think about what they are getting back. You are praying that Mekhi Becton can somehow stay healthy, but you're getting Elijah Vera-Tucker back. You're going to get a Brees Hall back, who I guarantee you is going to be pissed off that he wasn't the offensive rookie of the year, and is going to be looking to make a huge impact. You're going to hopefully have another year of seasoning for Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore. So I think that this is a great move for the Jets, and it's a move that could be a long-term move. Robinson's a restricted free agent. There's a chance the Jets could not only get him back, but let's say Robinson plays great, a team could give the Jets a draft pick. So the Jets, at the end of the day, might not have given up anything in terms of draft capital for James Robinson, who could be a highly productive player. And this is the thing I love about Joe Douglas. He's never gone cheat on a move. Every move you make, you don't even question. You don't even say like, that seems a little steep. I don't know about the price. You're like, a 6 for James Robinson? Hell yes. Like, worst case, a 5th? Hell yes. Like, here's another thing. Let me throw this at you. Jets have Bryce Hall. I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to package a deal and a pick to get an offensive lineman. But what if the Jets trade Bryce Hall before the deadline and they get a 5th round pick back? So basically, they will have traded, like, let's say hypothetically they get a 5th round pick for Bryce Hall. They will have traded Bryce Hall for the same draft value that they drafted him at. And this year, they would have basically, if Robinson plays up to his ability and gets a 5th round pick, they basically would have traded someone that's not an active player on their roster potentially for a running back that makes a huge impact for their team, and more specifically, their young quarterback. So are you going to get a proved commodity like Robinson, the 5th or 6th round? No. Like, that's the thing. Draft picks are great, but you have to hit on the early picks. Basically, once you get into the 4th round, you're going with lottery picks. Even Max Mitchell. I really like Max Mitchell, but there's questions about him. I like Michael Clemens, but there is a lot of questions about him coming out in the draft, and they have played incredibly well. But in the 5th and 6th round, if you get a steal like Tariq Woolen, that's a grand slam. But it is so hard. Like, basically, you're looking to fill out depth in those picks. And right now, like, with the way the Jets have built this roster, there might not be, their 5th round pick next year might not even make the freaking team, because they're so loaded with depth now that they've put so many good young players on this roster. Heck, their fifth round pick might not even make the team. And the Jets, too, are in a great position to still make a deal, because there are a lot of teams that have sold their souls and are desperate for draft picks. Could they call Cleveland for an offensive lineman? Because Cleveland spent all those draft picks on Deshaun Watson. The Rams, who are desperate for draft picks. Now, I don't think they have anyone the Jets really want right now, but they're a team that I'm just using an example that's desperate for draft picks. The Broncos are desperate for draft picks. There's a couple of franchises that will take draft picks just so they have picks, because they're in cap hell. They're going to be up against it. They can't add a lot of pieces in free agency, and they need the draft picks just to fill out their freaking roster at this point. Someone else has already done the work of proving Robinson's ability. All the Jets have to do is plug him in. And look, he's done great on a bad team. This isn't like he's coming from a top 5 offensive line and coming from a great offense where you're like, okay, maybe don't have the pieces. How's he getting this team? He's been on a team with, similar to the Jets, a young quarterback. He's been on a team that didn't know how to use him. And he's also been on a team and produced behind a horrendous offensive line. The Jaguars, the year he rushed for over 1,000 yards, had arguably one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen in my life. And you could make the case that that might have been one of the most impressive rushing seasons that he had, over 4 yards of freaking carried 1,000 yards behind that offensive line. And even this year, I will say right now, even despite all of the injuries the Jets have had, if you were to ask me which offensive line you would prefer, Jacksonville's or the Jets, I'd take the Jets right now, even with all their injuries, even in their current state, just because I think the Jets have more veteran presence on that offensive line, and I have a better floor with their offensive line. Like the Jaguars, like you've seen it, they still are struggling to protect Trevor Lawrence. And I keep saying, like, this team is trying to make Zach work, and I give them a lot of credit. Like, I swear, like, I'm asking the question, if you're in Trevor Lawrence's camp today, how are you feeling right now? And this is one thing I know I wasn't going to talk about this, but I just want to bring up something old. For every TV analyst, for every football analyst, for every podcaster that made the lazy claim for months, Trevor Lawrence wouldn't be in a good situation with the Jets. They would ruin Trevor Lawrence. Oh my God, if the Jets end up with the first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence should just go back to Clemson. I'm pretty sure if the universe could work itself out, Trevor Lawrence today would probably prefer to be a New York Jet, would probably prefer to be on a team that's, I don't know, put all these great pieces around him, that didn't have questionable drafts, that didn't draft a injury-prone running back in the first round, that didn't spend a ton of money on good receivers but not great receivers, on a organization that thought, let's hire a college coach with a shady track record and we'll fire him after one season. And it got to the point where we were berating the Jaguars. Why haven't you fired this idiot and buffoon at this point? To the point now where, yes, they're playing better, but they still feel like a massive disappointment. The Colts are benching Matt Ryan. They couldn't move the damn football, and they have a better record than the Jaguars right now. So, and you're Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, is James Robinson the biggest piece for your success? No. But do you think his camp really loves the fact that, hey, we're trading one of our good running backs? Etienne missed the entire season last year. What happens if the Jaguars go to London next week and Etienne tears his ACL or has to miss significant time with a concussion or an injury happens to Etienne? How do you think Trevor Lawrence in that Jaguars camp is going to feel when all of a sudden they look behind them like, okay, so we don't have James. Who are we going to hand the ball off to now? It would be nice if he had, I don't know, 1,000-yard rusher who's, only scored a couple touchdowns for us this year, and it's 1,000-yard carries. Like right now, the backup behind Travis Etienne, JaMycal Hasty, who was cut by San Francisco, and behind that, the rookie Connor Snoop. Great name. Not sure if he's a great football player. Big Daddy, the 6 moves to a 5th. If Robinson gains 600 yards, he already had 340. Now, is it 600 on the year or 600 with the Jets? I'm guessing 600. But look, it's a 5th-round pick. If the Jets are in the playoffs, it's going to be a late 5th-round pick. So the Jets are trying to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs, and even if they somehow don't make the playoffs, they're still going to be in the teens. So that pick isn't exactly great. You know what? You would get more in compensation for letting players go and getting draft picks. And you know what? The real good thing about a lot of 5th and 6th round picks are, it's not the players, it's his ammo. You use those picks to go up and get players like the Jets did with Breece Hall. Ironically enough, they trade a 5th round pick to go up a couple spots to get Breece Hall. Let me ask you this, Jet fans. Are you regretting that trade? Even the Jermaine Johnson trade. Are you regretting trading a late round pick to go up and get Jermaine Johnson? Don't think so. Don't think so. Again, love the guys. The chat, really good. Ultimately, will come down to Zach Wilson. Yep. been talking about that. How many fifth-round picks currently starting for the Jets? Great question. Breece Hall's a fifth-round pick. He's not starting for the Jets. So, like, it's just really good read on YouTube. Love the moves being made by our front office. Absolutely great. And look, I just think that this is an unbelievable trade for this Jet team. In 35 career games, Robinson has averaged 4.5 yards per carry on a Jaguars team behind a bad offensive line. Caught 49 and 31 passes his first 2 years, so he can be a pass catcher. Tough one-cut runner, great at getting downhill. Perfect for this offense. Like, I also don't think he was in a great scheme. Scheme is so important in the NFL, guys. Look at what Quincy Williams was before and look at him in the Jet scheme now. I really think at the end of the season, we might look up and go, damn, the Jets got another freaking steal, man. Like, and we might be looking back at Jacksonville saying, you want him? Max Mitchell, I think you're responding, Luis, to the fifth round. He was the fourth round pick from last year. Hunt will cost him at least a third. Douglas isn't going to give up that. This is a much better deal. Look, it's a good deal. I think Kareem Hunt might be slightly more explosive, but look, I think Robinson's is still a great fit. And look, to me, it was 1A and 1B. Like, these were the top two guys. Like, I threw out Dearness from Cleveland because I thought he showed some promise. I did not want anything to do with Cam Akers. Like, it was 1A and 1B. And the only reason I put Hunt slightly ahead was because I prefaced this earlier in my earlier live stream. If you missed that, go check that. I talked about the impact. I guess now it's a little bit irrelevant, but if you want more Jets content, you might as well check it out. But I was saying earlier in the show, in that part of the show, that the only reason I don't have Robinson 1 is because I'm not sure if Jacksonville's going to trade him. Yeah, they're 2-5, but they play the terrible Broncos. Their division isn't great. And the other thing, too, is they have a young quarterback. And my thought process was, I don't think they're going to move what could be a valuable piece in the development of Trevor Lawrence. But I forgot that the Jaguars are not well run. I think that they have a good head coach in place, and you need the three keys. Yes, we talked earlier that we're still trying to figure out if Zach's the guy, but you feel today the Jets have the head coach and the GM. You feel like they have those set in place. Jacksonville, you feel they have the head coach. You feel they have the quarterback, but you don't know about who's run that organization. And look, Trayvon Walker's been great for them. But I looked at their draft. They drafted a lot of defense. And their careers in the front office and in that organization is tied to wins. And you know how you win this league? It's with your quarterback. And that's one of the reasons the Jets are 5-2, because Zach hasn't been great. Zach missed time this year. But they added a lot of pieces so the Jets could function. They didn't need Zach Wilson to throw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns a week. Problem in Jacksonville is if Trevor Lawrence isn't throwing up 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, it's hard for them to win. Hope Bears 10-0. Let's go Bears. Hope Mac Jacobs. Look, I want this game to be a physical, punishing game because I want these Patriots on the short week. I freaking want these guys. And look, I want you guys, if you're at MetLife and if you're going, let me know. Look, we're putting Brick in the Ring of Honor. You better bring the freaking noise. Like, I'm so freaking excited. Look, I don't think it was the off-the-field issue because James, the thing with Kareem was he was basically a rental. James Robinson could still be on this team next year because of the restricted free agent tag. Kareem Hunt was not going to be. This was basically a rental, and it was basically a convenience for both teams. Look, the Jets need a playmaking running back, and Kareem Hunt wanted touches to basically get one last great contract at the age of 27 when he hit free agency. He wasn't going to be in the long-term plans of the Jets. You can make the case James Robinson's good this year. You get Breece Hall back next year. You have a great three-headed monster. Or maybe a team gives you Colin Michael Carter and you still have James Robinson under a good contract. Like, I mean, it gives you options. It really does. So, look, I said this last night. I said today. I wanted to see the perception of this organization change and go for it and freaking be aggressive and not just wait. It's not going to replace Breece Hall, but it's pretty damn good trade. And look, I don't think the Jets are done. I think Joe Douglas got the biggest issue out of the way first. Like, we knew Breece Hall, like, this is my thought process. I think the Jets knew last night Breece Hall was out for the year. There was hopes AVT wasn't. When AVT news came down today, you could tell Sal, I think, was surprised by it. I think that the Jets were working on this through the night last night, and it came to fruition today, and it takes a big check off the box. So now the Jets have a week to look at their pro scouts, go through everything, see what teams are out, and address the offensive line. It doesn't necessarily have to even be a tackle. If there's a good guard that can upgrade the right guard position for this year, you can do it, because the Jets are seemingly going to prove on the tackle position when Mitchell comes back in a week or two and with Fant. But I will also say this: if the Jets invest with a premier tackle acquisition, which I think will be a stretch, it's telling me that they're more concerned about George Fant, because George Fant, I'm not going to lie, guys, I am a little bit worried about Fant, because this knee injury has lingered, and even now he could technically come off the IR this week. It's still not fully there. So if I'm the Jets, like, I feel good about Mitchell the rest of the season, but I would still be looking to add offensive lines. Look, Andre Dillard from the Eagles, young kid, I'd maybe try to take a shot on him. I think Herbig's fine at guard, but if there's an upgrade available and it's not going to cost you only a day 3 pick, I think you go for it. Like, if you can just improve this offensive line, because the left side seems like it's set with Brown and Tomlinson. Look, Tomlinson's not going anywhere. I like Herbig. I think Herbig's done a nice job, but if you can even upgrade the right guard position, it just makes your offensive line better. And look, this is a team that wants to run the football, and they know their identity is running the football, and they know their best player, their best way to win is running the damn football. Damn, Pat's just went quickly. I'm not even watching the game, guys. I'm just so jacked up about this. I'm guessing yeah, Zappy's in. So I did see Zappy's in for the Patriots. Look, I just want it to be a physical game. Look, in the Jay Doosball, I said when he get drafted, Zappy gets Mac in trouble. Zappy's a good player. And look, I think it's sending a message that they don't love Mac Jones. And even last year, I didn't love Mac Jones. Even Mac Jones trying to kick guys in the groin tonight, man. I mean, come on, man. Come on. Look, I think Zappy's played well, but I do think he is a little overrated, but I do want to see what he can do. Look, I do think Zappy is a little bit more scary just because he can bring a little bit more to the table. But look, I don't think this Patriot offense is that good. They're really not good. Look, and it sends a message to this locker room. This sends a message to the guys in this locker room who, I guarantee you, because AVT and Breece Hall are such spark plugs, they are such guys that the guys love in this locker room, and guys that everyone looks up to. But they are basically telling this team that we are going for it and we believe in you guys. Like, this isn't the past where the Jets are just going to be happy with, we'll be happy. We're happy with the success we've had. A lot of teams could have just looked and said, we're off to a great start. Let's just ride it. They're saying, no. We're going for it. And it's telling the guys in this locker room, look, we're going for it because we believe in you. We believe in this defense. We believe in this great special teams. And we believe in this offense, and even to an extent, this quarterback. So I have to give the Jets a lot of credit. Unbelievable job. And Joe Douglas, man, pulls another rabbit out of the hat. I love you, JD. Great job. Great trade for the Jets. And look, it's still a gut punch, which has happened the last 24 hours. But let's put it this way. After probably one of the most miserable victory Mondays a fan base could possibly have, Joe Douglas not only helped the psyche of his team, but the entire Jets fan base by pulling this deal off and giving this fan base what they have lacked for well over 10 years. And that is hope. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're joining us after, make sure you put your comments and we will get to them in the next live stream. We love having you guys. If you're new to the channel, hey, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss any of our Jets content. But again, guys, thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time here on Rich Sports Talk.